Hi everyone, we're back with some more verbal reasoning questions for you to try out. So, next exercise we're looking at is finding the missing word. So there's a lot of ways that something where it's asking you to find the missing word could be potentially laid out in one of these verbal reasoning exams. We're looking at a particular type where you've got to work out where the letters come from in order to make a particular missing word in a pattern. So these ones look quite a lot scarier than they are, generally speaking, which I think is fairly typical
There's a
for most
theme
verbal
here, isn't
reasoning.
there, with verbal reasoning?
Yeah. So my top tips for you and looking at anything like this would be to say, what position in the words did the letter come from and which words did it come from? So I've laid out how I think about it here as a bit of an example. So for instance, the T in this first group of words obviously came from the T in mist. There's no other T's anywhere, so it couldn't have come from anywhere else. So this means that letter number 1 is from the fourth letter in the first word. So I've put that over here. The fourth letter in the first word is P, so the first letter over here must be P. For letter number 2, I'm doing exactly the same thing again. So where does R come from? It comes from the word rare over here. So it's the first letter in the second word. What I'm then going to do is find the first letter in the second word over here, which is a B.
B, but P next to B isn't good, is it?
No. So, what else could I look at here? Is there anywhere else the R could have come from?
Oh, could it be the third letter? Because there's
Yeah.
another R, isn't there?
So, what we can
So,
say here is maybe this isn't the first letter in the second word. This
yeah.
could actually be the third letter.
Third. But we know that because we can't possibly have P and B in a word
Yeah.
next to each other because you can't say it.
So,
Yeah.
if I look at the third letter in the second word, I've now got A.
Yeah.
PA
That's better.
definitely makes
Yeah.
more sense there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So next one, I've got I. I'm going to check through all of this really carefully to make sure there's not a second I. So I've
Yeah.
got M, no, I, that's fine. ST, no. RARE, no. So it's got to have come from the I
Okay.
missed them. So it
Second
has
letter,
to be
first word,
second letter, first word. So
which is
second
R.
letter, first word, RPAR. Yeah, that does make sense. And then finally, the M over here, double checking carefully to make sure I've not missed out an M anywhere. It's got to come from first letter in the first word. Finding the first letter in the first word over here is a T.
Perfect.
PART makes the word part. Part is a real word, so we know that we've done the correct thing here.
Yeah.
Okay, so the most important thing here is don't try and do the whole word at the same time.
Yeah.
Work out every single letter individually because it's much easier to keep in your head. Okay. Next part then. So here's another one of these questions. In the previous one, they set it out in brackets. Sometimes they might lay it out like that. Sometimes they might just put the word in the middle and then put a line. Don't get freaked out if they don't present it in exactly the same way you're used to. The key thing is that the wording of the question tells you that the word in the middle has been made from the other two words, and that tells you that you need to do what we've just done here. So where are we going to start, Jenny?
So we're going to look where the S has come from in stub. So there's only one S in bus door bulb, and so it must be the third letter in the first word.
Yep. So I'm going to go down to the third letter from the first word here, and that gives me a T. So I can write that in. Okay, great. So next one, I've got a T. And if you need to, you could almost think of this as being a bit like a hangman game. to help you think about the positions of the letters as well. So this T, there's a T here. I can't see any other T's up the top here at all though, so the T must come from the fourth letter in the first word. Going to go down and find that, and I get an E. Okay. Next up, we've got a U. So what's going to potentially be the tricky thing about the U here?
Well, there's a U as the second letter of the first word and of the second word.
Yeah.
But actually it's an A in the second set, second position in both words. It's an A, so it has to be an A anyway.
Yeah, so that one makes it seem like it should be tricky. In this case, though, it's not actually as bad because we have that same letter there anyway.
So that might be a case of if a question had two different options, going back to that, well, does it make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And then last one, we've got a B here. This becomes a bit trickier because the B could possibly come from 3 different places. When I'm marking this, you can see I'm changing the way I'm marking out the letters as well, just to make it a little bit easier.
So we go through and see which makes sense. So teeth, no, that's not a word. Teak, no, that's not, well, not with a C, that's not a word. Team, yes, that's a word.
Yeah. And if you can't see that easily, something you could do is pop all 3 of the letters down underneath. So F, C, and M. So you can see what your 3 options are for that word. If just saying it in your head isn't helping, like teeth, teak, team, we can easily hear that and which one's correct, but you could write it out and see what works. Because sometimes the way the letter sounds in your head might not be the way it's actually pronounced in terms of the phonics of it on the page.
Yeah.
This way we can see really clearly and easily it's got to be team. That's the only real word out of the lot of them.
Yeah.
All right. So with this one, it's really all about laying everything out really clearly and logically so you can see what all of your options are here.
Yeah. It is that being methodical, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Not just jumping to...
Yeah, and that's so much the thing with verbal reasoning. It's all half the time. It's less about how much do you know about what all of these different words mean and all the rest of it, as can you just act in a really methodical way when you're working out questions.
Yeah. And that's why practice is so important.
Mm-hmm, exactly. So next one then, we've got exactly the same layout as previously. Sometimes they might put the second group of words next to the first group of words so you can see how it relates a bit more easily for a question number. I've just laid it out like this because it fits better on our computer screen. So I'm going to start in exactly the same way, first letter first. So I've got a K here. I can see that I've got a K in the third letter of the first word. There's no other K's over here. So I'm going to go straight down to the third letter of the first word, and I know in that case it's got to begin with O. So then I've got an E here. Where could the E come from?
So it could either be the last letter of bake or the second letter of pest.
Mm-hmm. So let's find the last letter of the first word here. And let's find the second letter of the second word here. So I could have an N or a C. ON and OC are both possible options when you think about your letter combination, so I'm going to write them down.
Should we just write them both down then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I always do with something like this because I can see, well, I've got a blank space where this option could go. So let's write them down and then double check the next letter after that.
Oh, it's the same.
It's
okay.
The same
so
again.
N or C again.
Mm-hmm. So we could have exactly the same thing. And then the last one, I've got a P here.
Yeah.
So B-A-K-E, no, P from pest. So it's the first letter of the second word. first letter of the second word
It's just
here
like
is
hangman, isn't it?
It is. It's exactly like a hangman, and you could almost think of it as I've got my two lines here that
Yeah.
I've got to then have the E the other side of.
Yeah.
Quite often when I'm teaching this, I say to people when they're starting out learning all of these, lay it out as though you've got a blank hangman game in front of you.
Yeah.
So now I've got this, I can go through and double check all of the letter combinations to see what works. So let's try O-N-N-E. That's not a
No.
word. So rather than skipping to the C, I'm going to double check it with the N in the same position again. So O-N-C-E. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we get the word once here. So we can say then that the answer to this particular question must be once.
Yeah. Great.
And there we are. We've solved the problem. So this one, it's all about just that organising. Keep everything in nice, neat columns. If you need to, write things out at the side of the page. Make sure, obviously, you're not scribbling and making a mess of your exam paper. If you make a mistake, do a neat line through it or rub it out if you're using a pencil. But just keep everything neat and tidy, and it's going to be way, way easier to approach these questions rather than trying to mess about with trying to visualize everything in your head. Writing it down on the page is going to be your best possible option for this, because we can see this far more easily rather than trying to imagine N's and C's floating around in two different positions in our brains.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Any last questions about that one at all, Jenny?
No, just for I'm wondering if we can share with everyone where they can practice this on their Bond Online, this question type.
Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely. So if you have Bond Online, then have a look in the verbal reasoning section, and there's lots and lots of questions that are asking you to find the missing letter or find the missing word or anything like that. And this sort of question will be in there really easily for you to access.
Right.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks very much, everyone. Whatever on earth I was about to say there, I can do words. I teach for a living. So, thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you again in next video. We're going to be putting up some videos about non-verbal reasoning this week as well, so keep an eye out for those soon. See you in a bit.
Bye.